Hello, hello, hello! I am Axel Cannon, and welcome to Stupid Game Experiments, or as it is going to be known from now on, the place where dreams go to die. Today I'm going to tell you a story from a time when I was much younger and much more naive. Like 2 months ago, my younger self found out that there was going to be an upcoming Epic Megajam, which is just like a normal game jam, except with an epic megaton of corporate sponsors. While admittedly, the corporate-sponsored prizes are part of what attracted me to the Epic Megajam in the first place. This would also end up playing a key role in my epic downfall. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I've wanted to participate in one of these Megajams for a few years now, but I've always happened to have something else going on when they were running. So when this one was announced, and I was able to actually participate, it was the opportunity I'd been waiting for. Leading up to the Game Jam, I was so amped up, you could have plugged me into the electric grid and powered a small city. I just knew I was going to make the most amazing Game Jam game ever. It would be so awesome that it would redefine what it meant to make a Game Jam game. It would be my launching point to fame and fortune. This one game was going to single-handedly change my life forever. And then the Game Jam started, and it was followed by a week of train wrecks, culminating in me barely getting something I'm going to loosely call a game submitted before the deadline. So yeah, apparently I'm not going to be rich and famous after all, but as a consolation prize, at least I got some content for a new video. Rather than doing a typical Game Jam recap though, in this video I'm going to talk about the 5 stupid things you should never do in a Game Jam. Because if someone out there can benefit from my pain and misery, then, well, it still won't be worth it, but it's not like I have anything better to do. So here we go. Stupid thing you should never do in a Game Jam number 1. Don't try out an extremely complex program you've never used before for the first time. One of the categories in the Mega Jam that you could win was for the best game that used Houdini. Now, I've never used Houdini before, but I figured how hard could it be? Besides, the idea behind Houdini is that it's used to make 3D models procedurally. Since I suck at making my own models, I figured I couldn't do any worse than what I would be making normally. I was probably right about not being able to make anything better, but I definitely wasted a ton of time trying to get Houdini to make even simple objects. The program is just way too complex, and there are too few tutorials to really make it easy to use. I really like the idea of procedurally generated meshes or procedurally generated anything really. But even though Houdini has way more features than Blender geometry nodes, I still wouldn't recommend it unless you're going to dedicate all of your time to using it. The learning curve is just too steep for the payoff. And as an indie game developer, your time is probably better invested in learning to make great games than learning to use this one program. And for the love of all that is holy, whatever you do, don't try using it for the first time in a game jam. This brings me to stupid things you should never do in a game jam number 2. Don't try to use untested, complex solutions to solve simple problems. If you're like me, then interesting problems are like crack to a junkie. You just can't get enough of them, and they consume all of your attention when you finally get your hands on them. Fortunately, these aren't quite as destructive to your life as crack, unless you're on a 1-week deadline and can't afford to go down meaningless rabbit holes. One of the main things I wanted to accomplish with Houdini was to create objects that could be animated using the world offset position in the material shader. To accomplish this, I planned on storing the offsets as colors and textures that I could then import into Unreal Engine. This should have worked beautifully, but for some reason the offsets kept getting this crazy skewing to them. I wasted like 6 hours trying to figure out what the problem was. I finally figured out it was caused by Unreal Engine, quote-unquote, optimizing the original image, which changed the color values. I never did manage to fix the problem and had to settle for adding an offset to the shader so that while the position is still skewed, it at least looks reasonable. Speaking of problems with Unreal Engine, that brings me to stupid things you should never do in a game jam number 3. It turns out, when they say something isn't production ready, that goes for game jams as well. However, I chose to ignore this and use Unreal Engine 5 Early Access for my game because it had some really cool features I really wanted to make use of. Honestly, I should have seen this one coming. I literally made a video when Unreal Engine 5 first came out about how I couldn't get the stupid thing to run. However, when I finally did get it up and running, it seemed mostly fine. But game bugs are crafty little bastards. They hide themselves right up until you really need something to work, and then bam, everything fails. To really put this into perspective, you'd expect that most of the basic stuff from Unreal Engine 4 would be working fine. I mean, it's not like they would have to rewrite something as basic as adding and subtracting, right? Wrong. I don't know what they did to the basic arithmetic nodes, but even those don't work right. Like, I literally couldn't even do math with date times at all. And don't even get me started on meta sounds. Actually, on second thought, do get me started on meta sounds, because that's stupid things you should never do in a game jam number 4. If using an early access game engine is a bad idea, then using experimental features is even worse. When I said I wanted to use Unreal Engine 5 because I really wanted to use some of the features, I was pretty much just talking about meta sounds. Of course, meta sounds is literally labeled experimental. They even ran into bugs using it in the live stream they featured it in on the Unreal Engine channel. However, again, I had played around with meta sounds a little bit already, so I wasn't too worried. Yeah, I was wrong. I ran into 2 main problems. First, when a meta sound file started to get too big, every node that you added or deleted caused the engine to freeze up and shudder like a bomb had been dropped on it. Okay, it's clearly not optimized yet. No big deal. Metasounds has these cool little send and receive nodes. I'll just create smaller metasound files and send the data back and forth between them. No. I didn't really figure out this was a problem until I was trying to do it with audio streams. But sending between metasounds is currently utterly broken. With audio streams, it causes static in the stream, and with everything else, the sending and receiving doesn't happen reliably, so you end up thinking that you have a bug in your program when really the data's just not being sent. I did end up getting a procedural music system done, literally just in time. It was the last thing I finished, and as I say in the game, I'd only loosely call it music. I mean, the melody is played through nothing but a sine wave, which is literally the most basic sound you can create. I have high hopes for meta sounds in the future, but it is definitely still an experimental feature. And this brings me to my 5th and final stupid thing you should never do in a game jam. Don't wait until the end of the jam to learn how to package your game. Now, I've obviously packaged games before in both Unreal Engine and other game engines, but I had never packaged a game in Unreal Engine 5 before. At first, I couldn't even figure out where the button to package the game was. Then when I tried to package the game, I kept getting errors, or the packaging process would freeze up on me. Then when I did get the game packaged, it kept crashing on me. For some reason, it wanted the world grid material, even though I had removed all references to that in the game. This meant I had to add the engine content back in, so my game ended up being like almost 500 megabytes in size. It also wasn't rebuilding from scratch each time, even though I had that option selected, so errors weren't going away, even though I had fixed the problem. I did finally get it working, but there were a few hours in there where I was really freaking out. I thought all my hard work of the past week was going to be for nothing. On that note, here's a little bonus tip for you. If you want to increase your odds of winning a game jam, don't join one where the first prize includes a super rare graphics card that everybody and their mother wants to get their hands on. The game jam ended up being the most popular one Epic has run by a long shot, which of course means way more competition for my epic failure of a game. All of that being said, I don't know if I would say this was a fun experience, but I'd definitely say it was a good experience. It felt really good to be laser focused on a single goal for 1 week, and pushing myself to see what I could build within a given deadline. I'm still not hooked on game jams the way some other creators are, but if I'm available the next time an Epic Megajam rolls around, I'll probably throw my hat in the ring again. If you enjoyed this little tale of failure, make sure you hit the like button to let me know you enjoyed laughing at my pain. You should probably also subscribe and hit the notification bell as well, so you don't miss out on any of my future misery. As payback, I'll put a link to the game down in the description, so you can torture yourself with that for a while. That wraps up this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.